Explore the varied and delicious ways to prepare tofu as Regina and her guest prepare a tasty Mexican tofu with mole sauce, a fresh salad topped with grilled tandoori tofu and portobello mushrooms, and a creamed tomato soup, also with tofu. And Regina takes a tea break to look into the world of energizing herbs.
The most common progression in moving from an animal protein-based diet to a plant protein-based diet is to do a literal swap out of ingredients. For example, you might take your favorite recipe that calls for chicken or meat of some kind and swap it out for most likely a product that contains soy, such as tempeh or tofu. Well, we have so many requests from viewers for soy-based recipes that we decided to devote today's show to the use of tofu. We have a very special guest coming on a little bit later, Akasha Richmond, who's written the book The Art of Tofu, and she's going to be putting together some wonderful exotic recipes using tofu. And we're going to start out with one of my favorite tofu recipes, which is a Mexican tofu. And actually, Chris, please come on and join us today. I don't know how much tofu you use, but once you start, you find that there are some that you really like. There are a lot of wonderful prepared tofus out
Yeah,
there.
there are some that are already out there that are really good, and then I like it when it's been infused with a good amount of flavor, because tofu in and of itself is...
Yeah. Doesn't carry a lot of flavor, but a lot of good nutrients in it. And this one I became particularly fond of, naturally. It's like lipstick and some other personal items women become fond of. You like a certain type of thing. They discontinued it as soon as I became really fond of it. So I had to find a way to replicate it. So we're doing that today with this baked tofu. And let me explain some of the ingredients here. I don't know if you're familiar with the use of mole sauce, but in this Mexican baked tofu dish, first, we start with baked tofu.
This is just straight baked. It doesn't have any.
It's an extra firm tofu that has been baked.
No flavor at all. Just
does have flavor. This one is called savory.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
very fond of the hickory and more the Mexican range of flavors. And also, there's some wonderful teriyaki baked tofus.
Sure, but you're going to have to show me today because I'm from the Southwest, so this better be authentic tasting.
Well, it's mole. It has to be authentic. Now, mole sauce. I need to talk to you about mole sauce. It's based with the texture. You'll see it's kind of a thick, pasty texture. That comes from sesame seeds that have been ground up, also a little bit of toasted bread crumbs. And then you have chocolate powder in there, cocoa powder, and cinnamon and chilies, and it's nice and spicy. It is not particularly sweet. A little goes a long way, and the nice thing is you use a little mole, you don't have to really put much else by way of flavor into the recipe. So we're going to start out with just a little bit of vegetable broth, as we generally use. And we have some sliced onions here, just enough, about a small onion's worth. And here we have one green pepper. Soften them up just a little bit before we add corn. Okay, this has been softening up for a minute or two, and now we're going to add some fresh, crunchy corn off the cob and a little bit more broth, and then allow this to cook for another, probably a minute and a half, 2 minutes, just enough to get a little bit of the crispness out of the corn. Okay, we're going to heat the baked tofu up now and put just a little bit of shoyu sauce, which is a naturally aged soy sauce, in with it for flavor, and a little bit of moisture too. I always use shoyu in the place of soy sauce. It is a soy sauce. It's just a much more mellow, I find much higher quality soy sauce. Okay, we have a nice little coating of shoyu sauce, and now we can put the mole in. The mole sauce, as you can see, it's more of a paste. And it'll start melting down on the bottom of the pan. I'm going to put a little bit of vegetable broth in with it to expedite this process here. Soften it up a bit. There we go. And so it begins coating all of the pieces of tofu. And then once it's completely coated, I'll allow it to begin dehydrating again. This is not a particularly saucy recipe. Okay, this is nice and bubbly now. We have a good strong flavor. We've used should use about a tablespoon and a half, 2 tablespoons of the mole sauce. And then we're going to add this to the vegetables. And you can keep it in, actually this is really good refrigerated as well as hot. But if you're going to use it as an entree, you'll want to serve it hot. And one way to go is to serve it over rice. It goes really well together. And the rice adds a little bit of not just nutrition and bulk, but it also takes in some of the flavors of the mole sauce. Et voila, Mexican tofu. You'll never know what the protein source of that was, will you? And in just a couple minutes after we clean this up, we're going to come back to our special guest, Akasha Richmond. And I'm very happy to have Akasha Richmond with us now, and you're going to be making a wonderful, exotic, kind of East Indian
Tandoori salad.
Yes, tandoori salad that has papadums, which are those nice crispy little lentil flatbreads that you get when you sit down in an Indian restaurant. And these things are amazingly simple to, let's say, put into finished form, but not necessarily simple to make from scratch. So
No.
wouldn't you recommend you just find an East Indian shop and buy these?
Any Indian grocery store, they always have them. They're kind of a staple in the Indian diet. And normally they're fried.
Right.
But I'm going to show you an easy way to bake them.
Yeah.
Where it's simple, easy, and they're crispy and
They
no
taste
deep fry.
fabulous. Nice thing about these also, it's a little different in that even though it looks like a tortilla, these are actually made out of a lentil flour, or bean flour. Want me to go ahead and do that? Will you start introducing the mushrooms
the
and
oven.
spices, and tell us a little bit about the tandoori spices while we're at it, okay?
So I have some tandoori powder that's made out of all kinds of Indian spices, and it's red. And when you get tandoori chicken in the Indian restaurant, that's what this is what usually is, and they marinate it in yogurt and spices. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put a little canola oil on this mushroom and a little soy sauce. And the reason I use this is shoyu, sorry.
Shoyu, yes.
Okay, excuse me. Which is better. I like it better also.
Yeah, it has
I
a
like
mellower
little-
flavor.
Yeah, a little of that, so we don't have to use so much oil because it adds a little moisture. And then a little of the tandoori, and we're going to save this because we're also going to do this with tofu. So I just rub a little on here to give it some. It gives it a lot of good color and flavor. And I'm going to put it on the grill and let it get going there.
And so how long are you going to leave it on the grill?
I usually grill it for about 4 minutes on each side.
Okay. Here we took the papadums out of the oven. They only take a minute or two to crisp up like this, and they should be a very light golden color. And these are fabulous tasting. They have quite a lot of spice in them. So we're going to set them aside until you're ready for them in the recipe. And now we're going to talk about tofu.
Talk tofu?
Yeah, let's do
T
a little
word.
tofu talk.
Little tofu talk? Okay. Okay, well what I have here is extra firm tofu. And this is what I like to use for this salad because it's extra firm and it's great for grilling.
Silken tofu does not do well on a grill.
Silken tofu doesn't do well on a grill. Now you can freeze silken tofu.
Oh, that's true.
You can slice it and freeze it and defrost it. And when it defrosts, you pat it dry, you get all the water out. It's very chewy, it's like a little cutlet. But I don't have the time for that, do you?
Exactly. No, I don't have the time for it.
that.
I want it ready to go.
That's why, even that one that you used earlier, the package, slice those and put those on the grill too.
Right.
Like if you want to do this salad.
That's
you
what
can
I
also
usually
use
do.
that. But you won't get that tandoori flavor. I slice it about a ½ inch thick. If you do it too thin, it's going to fall apart.
Right.
I'm going to put it right here for the minute in this little tray. And I always use a little shoyu or soy sauce or tamari sauce because tofu's so bland that just that tandoori powder, you'll be eating bland tofu with spice on it.
Right.
So something about soy and tofu
Works really well together.
They're best friends.
I did the same thing earlier, you may remember, on the Mexican dish. Now, did you go into this one? I don't think you talked about this one yet.
This
what do we
is
have
the
here?
firm. And what I like to do with the firm, you see how it is? It's nice, you can mash it up. Let's say, you know, your son's friend is coming to dinner and they're allergic to dairy and you want to make a vegan lasagna.
Right.
So you mash this tofu up, you add some spinach, you add some Parmesan or soy Parmesan, and you have vegan lasagna.
Right.
It's great, and it's, you know, it's dairy free and it mashes really nice.
Yes.
This one is pretty firm for firm. You can the silken works nice for that too.
Right.
Because it'll get
That one's almost
creamy.
like a ricotta. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll whisk these away because you won't be needing those now. Are you going to be putting the tofu on the grill
I'm going
shortly
to put
here?
the tofu on the grill,
Okay.
and what I'm going to do is take our brush, I'm going to put a little tandoori powder on here and put it right on the grill. And see how nice the extra firm tofu, it's not going to fall through that grill.
Right.
You could even do this on your outdoor barbecue at home, but just make sure you use the extra firm. Absolutely.
Only takes one time using soft tofu to figure that one out.
Not a good thing. And the
lot of
mushroom's
smoke
looking
and no
really
product.
nice.
Yeah. Would you like to put that back in here when you're done, or do you need
I think that mushroom's done. Let's put that right there and keep that there for right now. And, you know, I like to grill. You know, you grill on one side, you flip it over. You want that X mark, you can switch it around, do that. I like, you know, you can do it like that as well.
And we're finishing up the last piece of tofu, and it has lovely grill lines on it, and setting it aside, letting it cool, and begin putting a very exotic looking dressing together.
Very exotic.
Okay. Would you like to put that up there, and then I'll scoot the blender in a little bit for you and tell us what we're putting in here.
You know, as I said, tofu's bland.
Right.
So when you make a dressing with it.
It won't be after this.
No, it won't be after this. It's great for a salad dressing because instead of, let's say, a cup of oil in your dressing,
Right.
you could use a cup of silken tofu.
Yeah.
So think how much fat you get rid of.
Right.
But you need to add a lot of things to give it a
Right.
lot of flavor.
Right. So
So
let's,
we've
this
got
is a
everything
blender
here.
dressing too, so we're
Oh, it's
going-
easy.
Okay.
It's just, you know. So this is your silken tofu. 'Cause it's half a box, which is
Oh,
about
okay.
6 ounces. So we have a little curry powder,
All right.
fresh ginger.
Lot of ginger.
Fresh ginger, which is nice. I like ginger.
Right, aids in digestion,
Yeah,
very good
sure.
for blood circulation. It's
A
fabulous.
little honey.
One of the wonder foods of nature, and a little honey.
Do you think? I think so.
Ginger really
is
is,
awesome.
absolutely.
Do you ever make ginger tea?
I do, and I make fresh ginger lemonade. It's one of my little specialties with maple syrup and sparkling water.
This is lemon juice.
Okay, what are we putting in now? It
Little
looks like a
olive
little
oil.
oil. And we just put lemon juice in.
Lemon juice, and this is our apple cider vinegar. Now,
Dressing.
I like spicy food.
Yeah.
But this is a minced jalapeno or serrano pepper.
Okay.
So let's just do a pinch, because you know it's really up to you. This is mango chutney.
Now that looks good. That's
it's
going to be interesting. I'm anxious to taste this one.
It's really good, and you know you can get this in the grocery store, the Indian store. You could use tomato chutney. You could use your own homemade chutney.
In fact,
if you
one thing
make-
I found when you're doing ethnic cuisine, if you live in a large urban area and you have access to the stores that feature that cuisine,
Right.
I mean, real native cuisines, usually it's a lot less expensive than going to a gourmet shop that
A lot
has,
less.
you know, labels of it.
Oh,
I mean, like half or
definitely.
even a third of the price. If you can find a good
Absolutely.
Indian shop, go there for these ingredients.
And you know what? The chutney's better. Usually better.
Yeah.
I mean,
And you
let's
also
face
have
it.
more varieties available too.
Green onions or scallions, cilantro, your favorite. Sorry.
I'll taste it anyway.
bad.
Could you go light on it for me, just for me? Thank
That's it. We won't put it. You know, if you didn't like cilantro, you could use parsley.
Right.
Or you could even use dill if you wanted to.
Well, you didn't use too much in there. I'll give it a try.
Now, this is white miso. You know what miso is. It's
Right.
a fermented soybean
Right, I
paste.
love
and
it. Miso
it's
soup.
Great in these tofu dressings. It really blends up nice and creamy, and it's the
Very
same
rich flavor.
thing that's used in miso soup, but this is a white one. And in miso soup, they use the dark one. And more.
And finally, a little
of
shoyu.
course. You
Oh,
need
this
that
looks
for the
wonderful.
flavor.
Alrighty.
Looks good.
And we're done here, right? So we can go ahead and put the top on and go for it. I'm putting it
up.
on low. You just tell me what you want to do here.
Just needs to get creamy. I mean, you don't want lumps of tofu when you're dressing.
Ideally. Smelling wonderful. Why don't you go ahead and put that in the little glass pitcher, and I'll get these out of your way and bring a salad bowl over so you can begin assembling this. And here we go. Let me get that out of the way.
Okay. Put this in here. Beautiful.
And you have just mixed field greens, it looks like. Any greens, I assume any tender greens will do, right?
anything, or
Okay.
even if you had chopped romaine, red leaf, anything like that would be nice.
Okay.
Okay.
So
You're
are
mixing,
you
I'm
going
mixing.
ahead and putting the, why don't you go ahead, you're putting the
Toss a
dressing in?
little Dressing.
Toss it.
Okay. Might not need all of it. This usually keeps for about 3 days in the refrigerator.
Okay, the dressing?
Yeah, it's a fresh dressing. So, you know, tofu's a fresh product. So maybe 3-4 days. I actually do a Caesar dressing like this, and even after a week, it was still good.
I'd like to have your tofu Caesar
Oh.
recipe. That
Tofu
sounds good.
Caesar recipe.
Yes,
Great.
That's a natural. But it looks like it's fairly well
There we
tossed.
go.
So, you're going to plate this, right?
That on there.
Okay.
And we have our
The ginger really comes through. It's very aromatic.
beautiful tofu and mushrooms. And what I like to do with these is sort of slice them on the diagonal. Because I just think they look prettier that way.
I wish you could smell all this. It's wonderful. The spices coming from the tandoori mix, and then the ginger and lemon and such here. It's really,
It's real pretty. See, those are nice. We can put some of those. You know, we call these the vegetarian steak.
Right.
Portobello
Right.
mushrooms.
gracing
really-
barbecues around the
Flavor.
U.S.
And I do the same with the tofu. I like to give it a little diagonal slice.
And so you'll use one portobello and then 1 or 2 slices
Sure, 1 or 2
to finish
slices.
it off. So this could almost be a light entree as well.
Absolutely. And
Yummy.
the great thing about this tofu, now this will keep in the refrigerator a week.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm going to spread the greens a little bit so we can get that papadum in there standing up and make it look all
This
pretty.
is the
Yeah.
special portion of our presentation. So we'll do that, and then you're going to wedge this guy right in there.
Yeah,
aren't you?
wedge it in there with a few things.
So we're finishing it off with sliced tomatoes and cucumber.
Cucumbers.
Fresh, crispy, a lot of good spices and flavors, protein. This pretty much is a meal. There we go.
Definitely.
Et voila, the papadum is on its own. We're going to go to our Healthful Libation segment today, and we're going to be talking with a woman who knows a lot about herbs and teas, and we'll be focusing on energizing tea, which we have some of those ingredients right here,
Sounds
primarily
good.
ginger. It's interesting. I think this is much needed information because most of us know the feeling of being tuckered out either at the beginning of the day or somewhere in the middle of the day. And so it sends us to the espresso bar for a hit, a jolt of 200-300 milligrams of caffeine per either shot of espresso or a cup of coffee, which has its downsides too. You go up and you come down really fast. So we're talking about herbs that will help us energize our lives that are not going to have the downside of espresso and heavily caffeinated drinks. So why don't you begin, Linda, by telling us, give us a little tour of the ingredients here and how each one of them affects our energy levels.
We've chosen some energizing herbs. Some of them have caffeine, but not as much as the big hit of the 100 to 200 milligrams. We have yerba mate here, which is a South American herb. It's a national drink in South America. It's consumed throughout the day, has either a roasted taste, we see roasted mate here, or a green taste, the green mate over here.
What do we have
And
here?
it's often, the mate is often combined with ginger.
Right.
And ginger is a warming, energizing herb just by itself because it increases circulation. It's very good for the stomach. And many herbal teas use ginger as a base or a complementary herb. Wonderful taste, and it warms you up and gets your circulation going. Then we have peppermint leaf, which is a wonderful aromatic herb, which has a lot of energy.
Oh, that's wonderful, very potent. I mean, that's almost strong enough to clear the sinuses.
Now here we have another very aromatic
This is very
blend.
popular.
This is getting very popular. Chai.
You find chai lattes, in fact, at all
Yeah.
a lot of the coffee bars
Which
around
is
the country
less
now.
caffeine, and it's got black tea in it, and it has nutmeg and cardamom and
Very warming,
and ginger.
energizing.
Very warming, very good for the stomach. Which is coffee is generally not good for the stomach because it's got the acids in it. So chai might be an alternative for you. And then the very famous now and popular green tea, and green tea. We have some whole green tea leaf, and we have some cut green tea leaf. And green tea is very good for keeping your cholesterol levels down, helps balance the fats in your blood, also gives you a little caffeine. It's very mentally alerting, and again, good for digestion. And then the last one here is ginseng, and of course this is the famous Oriental energizer, rejuvenator, taken for longevity. We have some American ginseng root ground up here. We have some Asian ginseng root and little ginseng roots here. And ginseng is a tonic energizer. You can drink it for several days. You can drink it all your life, you know. And certainly as old age comes on, or middle age, whatever you want to call it.
As age comes on.
As age comes on, exactly. Ginseng is a wonderful tonic herb to take.
Oftentimes when you buy teas in the tea bag form as medicinal teas, they'll be combined.
Traditional herbal medicine works to work on the whole body.
Right.
So you don't just do an isolated compound the way modern medicine sort of approaches it. You do a more balanced effect.
There's a lot of research that's been done on all of this, so this isn't like waving the hair of a dog through something, and this is actually scientifically based.
There's a lot of research and a lot of empirical information. These herbs have been consumed for thousands of years by cultures all over the world.
And this one that I'm about to sip as we wrap it up here is called Good Mood.
That's a good mood. That's a St.
This
John's
is a
wort
happy
tea.
one.
Yeah.
Well, I don't feel depressed, but I can always stand to feel happier.
Absolutely.
Well, cheers.
Yeah, to
Thank
your
you
health.
very much for joining us.
Yeah.
And now we have a creamy tomato soup coming up, but it does not use dairy. We're relying on tofu for the creaminess, right?
Cream of tofu tomato.
There we go. Okay.
There we have it. So I have some vegetable stock. And you know what, Regina? You can use water too.
Right.
But I buy
always
those-
use vegetable
I
stock.
like 10 years ago when half of this stuff wasn't available. Okay, so I have some onions,
So you put a little
Chopped onion.
little salt
Little
in the
salt.
stock.
I have a little garlic, tomato paste. This is cooked rice. You can use raw rice
Just
too.
because we're trying to put this together in a shorter amount of
Right,
time, we
and
pre-cook
cooked
the
rice
rice.
will make it quicker. A little pepper,
Is that white pepper?
white
Is that
pepper,
white pepper?
a bay leaf, a little fresh basil, a little
This is a
vegetable
good thing
broth
to use
powder.
too, to just add a little more saturation to the flavor, which you're using in addition to the liquid vegetable broth. It just gives it a little more richness
Yeah,
to the
a little
flavor.
more taste.
Yeah.
I have some beautiful Roma tomatoes, which I think have the best flavor. I'm going to add a pinch of sugar to this. Now, sometimes in the middle of the summer when tomatoes are at their best, you might not need the sugar.
Right.
Like if you get some really good tomatoes at the farmer's market and they're fresh, but we'll still add a pinch of sugar. In the end, we're going to add some olive oil if you like.
Okay, it looks like it's all assembled, and
That's
you're going
it.
to be boiling it for.
About 20 or 30 minutes.
Okay.
You know, if you have really ripe tomatoes, it might get done quicker.
Okay.
Turn it on, put a cover on, go hang out, have some fun.
Little cappuccino. We'll be back.
Absolutely.
And Akasha says the soup is ready to go.
Looks really good.
You know, it went together very quickly. Once you measure out the ingredients, there's really nothing to it, is there?
It's so easy. You know, you can do this with other vegetables too.
Very
Take
aromatic.
the bay leaf out. Don't want to.
Thank you for reminding us.
But you know, you can do zucchini like this.
Yes.
And asparagus and broccoli.
I'm really big on quick blender soup.
Me too. Get that. Little olive oil.
And just looks like about a
Just touch.
tablespoon
Yeah,
or so
just
of
about
olive
a
oil.
tablespoon.
And
And the silken tofu.
another 6 ounces of silken tofu.
There we go.
And we'll put it in the blender. We'll start it out on low because remember it's hot. Don't want to start any kind of hot liquid ingredients on
Yeah.
high. And this takes no time at all, and voila, we have a soup.
And croutons. You can put a few croutons on the top, which would be nice.
And while this is blending up, we're going to go to David Berkeley and find out what he would serve with today's dishes.
Chef Richmond's herb tomato soup and tandoori tofu salad would be perfect with Sauvignon Blanc. That is, despite the range of flavors between the two dishes, and that's attributable to the diversity and the versatility of Sauvignon Blanc. Now, in the past, we've talked about how receptive Sauvignon Blanc is to vegetarian dishes. Since then, there's been a worldwide discovery, even among non-vegetarians, about how delicious and versatile this varietal is. There's also been a worldwide explosion on its production. Not only do you have the wonderful wines from France, such as Sancerre, the continuing delicious wines from California, getting better each vintage, but it's in New Zealand where the real excitement is generated. Those pure citrus flavors are driving the consumer out to find more different Sauvignon Blanc. And they're finding them from Australia, Chile, South Africa, and even Austria. Remember, these are not wines to keep though. These are wines to be uncorked, served chilled, and enjoyed. Please do.
And we'll put it in a bowl, add a few croutons for garnish, and I have to thank you so much for coming all the way from LA to be with us today and share some of your specialties using tofu. I think it's been very educational for all of us, including myself.
Thank
Till
you.
next time, Santé.
Santé.
To find out more about Regina's Vegetarian Table, visit our PBS website at pbs.org.